Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, another week, another failed attempt at a video. I guarantee I tried this about 5 minutes ago and it worked a dream. There's something that I'm missing. But
Skill.
Skill is missing. I did say last week that this would be the last time I tried to do that. But I tried it again and it blew up in my face, and I do apologize. At least it only went for 3 minutes this week rather than 5 minutes. But now that we are past those boring bits that no one else cares about apart from me, and I will publish the chat, the internal chat that we have that was going around while that break was happening, just for people at the end. Welcome.
That's why I'm laughing.
Welcome to a special edition of the Whisky Roundtable. My name is Scott Fitzsimons, and as always on a Wednesday, Arvo, at about 7:30 p.m. Sydney time, it is my pleasure to welcome you wherever you are in Australia or the world to listen to four idiots have a chat about whiskey. We have not enlisted a special guest this week because we've got some things we want to catch up on and preview. First thing is being taking a look at the start of 2021. At the end of 2020, in our last episode, we asked ourselves, but also you guys, what were your hopes, dreams, and Matt Bailey fears for 2021? So we want to see whether those hopes, dreams, and Matt Bailey fears actually came to fruition. We're going to talk about that, everything that's come up, what we've learnt this week that might be new and exciting. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to get into a preview and a bit of a discussion about the upcoming Australian Whisky Awards, the inaugural Australian Whisky Awards, basically arguing about who's going to win, who we think should win. We're going to tally up those awards, and then whoever out of the four of us gets the most right after the awards will win one of the Corowa T-shirts that Dean Drews kindly gave to me that I'm now holding hostage that I'm going to give out as prizes. But before we get into that, I'd like to welcome Dahlenburg, Milne and Bailey back once again to the Whisky Roundtable stream and podcast, if you're listening back a little bit later. Kicking off with that eternal question, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is in your glass tonight?
Wow. Well done, Scotty. Another tremendous intro as always. I'm on a red ale to begin with, Bridge Road Brewers red ale, and then I'll after that I might move to a Glen Spey, which is not related to Speyburn.
Well, hi, John Jarvis. I'm actually drinking a Hobart whiskey, Lafroig cask finished.
I'm just breaking all the rules because fuck it, we haven't got a guest tonight, so I'm drinking Toreadors because why not?
And we got the preview of Milne's bartending skills just before we went live, didn't we?
Shaking. Loved it so
Right,
much
guys,
you
put his shirt on.
Loved it so much that you muted me and told me to shut up. It's good to know that I'm a valued member, you know, as the only non-personality in the group, you know, it's good to know that my content is clearly valued just as much as the rest of you. I'm not bitter, don't worry.
It was a very proud moment for all of us at the round table to see Baby's first cocktail. So that was...
You get what you deserve.
I'm digging in tonight to blend number 6 from the Boutique Whiskey Company, which is a 24-year-old. We don't know where it's from, so I can't possibly tell you that it's Glen Scotia Teaspoon with a little bit of Loch Lomond because I don't know that. But really, really cool little 24-year-old blend, Campbelltown there. Couple of comments coming through. G'day to Vicky Dahlenburg, friend of the stream. While we're on that, Alex, do you want to give a bit of a shout-out?
I do tonight. Mum and Berg, yeah, Matt. My wonderful whiskey thief, a.k.a. Grandma, a.k.a. Ferret, she actually turns 95 tomorrow.
Woo!
Yes, it's pretty special. We're going there for dinner tomorrow night because I can't make it to the lunch for work because of work tomorrow. But 95, it's such a great innings. She's still got her full driver's license and walks 2 to 3 kilometres a day and still pinches my fucking whiskey. So happy birthday, Grandma.
Yeah.
We raise a glass to you.
Stop
Matt,
drinking more whiskey.
A quick g'day to Brie Atwood, who's missed the last couple of weeks, had withdrawals. Unfortunately, Brie, you've missed some good weeks, and now you're going to get a pretty average week with just the four of us. But that's all right. G'day to
that's what the podcast is for.
This is where it all started.
You can return to the good stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to bring back the quiz, boys.
The quiz could make a return.
The quiz could make a return. That was fun.
This week, but we could get back into it.
We do the quiz when we're all in the same room together, I think is the way to do the quiz.
Oh, and the thumbs up and thumbs down. That was hilarious.
G'day to to Denny K. And just on the last comment coming through here, Matt Bailey, you're in a bit of trouble because I believe you're meant to be somewhere else tonight. Matt Wooler has cooked a lovely pork curry for you, and apparently you're not there.
Yeah, apparently I'm supposed to come around for the pork curry. I'm very sorry, Wooler. I'm on Roundtable, so I can't be in two places at once. But my apologies.
Also, Matt.
Is he on delivery?
Matt Wooler, why are you planning something on a Wednesday night, man?
Actually, because he stuck me in the mud, I can stick him in as well. He said, I thought Roundtable was on Thursday nights.
It was his sneaky way to try and join us, I'm sure.
Who's George? I think we have an appearance from the Whiskey Thief herself. And I think next to Puddles, we now have a new name to give to one of our members of the panel here, which is George.
Hi, Grandma.
Oh, it's amazing. This is amazing. I love that your grandma has a Facebook account and it is commenting and it's on screen right now.
She has she has one of the big Mac computers and she does her little yoga classes twice a week on it. Like iPhone, iPad, Mac, Hyundai i30, like, yeah.
We might need to stop talking about the Whiskey Thief. She's putting me to shame with like exercise and being able to use a computer and all that sort of stuff.
Maybe she can be our tech support because we need it.
Because we need a new one.
Yeah, well, for those listening back on the podcast, I definitely did not gesticulate at other members of the panel here. G'day to Adam Pinkard as well down in Tassie. No, it's been a bit of a few weeks for you, mate, but I hope you're doing well down there. But let's use that as our segue into 2021. We came out of 2020 with hopes, dreams, and Matt Bailey fears. Things feel, overall like a little bit more consistent in terms of events in the world and going to pubs and things, but really in terms of the whole world, 2021 unfortunately doesn't feel particularly different to 2020 from where I'm sitting. How have you guys found it?
2020's been shit. 2021's been shit.
Yeah, you've had a rough few weeks as well with all your venues and whatnot. So
fuck my life. Yeah, sorry for swearing on the podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
But please, someone else talk about their woes. Go for it, Milne.
I don't know. I think we're in the same position as we probably will be as per 2020. I think as Australians or as people living in Australia, should I say, we are in a much more fortunate position than most people in the rest of the world. We've had some great people from the UK on here recently, and I've been talking to a lot of people in the US recently, and it's very much a different situation, a different position for them than it is for us here in Australia. We can go to a bar, we can drink in a bar, we don't have to put a face mask on for most situations, and we're really lucky in that sense. But I talk to my family back in the UK, and I'm still no closer to knowing when I'll get back to see them or when they'll come here to see me. In a week's time, my parents were meant to be taking me out for dinner for my birthday. That's clearly not going to happen. Boo on me. Here's my sub story. But no, I think we've changed a lot for the landscape of whiskey here in Australia. I think there's some amazing things that have happened as a result. We were able to bring in distillers and different people from across the world to events and places. And I was chatting to the guys at Baxter Inn, and they're saying it's amazing. It's like we'll stay up really late and do a training with someone in Scotland. And I think Dennis Malcolm was on a Zoom call with the guys there for a training. It's like it's amazing. It's like Dennis doesn't come to Australia that often, so it's incredible that they can sit there and have him versus someone as a representative from the distilleries. It's like actually there's even more weight to that. So your job's at a loss, Matt Bailey, because we're just going to zoom in from the distillery rather than needing brand ambassadors like yourself. But I think
not before time as well. I think everyone's suffered through enough Matt Bailey tastings. But Milne, you're exactly right.
I've never been to a Matt Bailey tasting.
Is that why
you're the lucky one? You're the lucky one. Trust me.
Andy, you survived. You're all right.
Is that why, Alex, you're the only one that's...
I carried you. It's fine.
You did not carry me at that tasting, mate. I'll tell you what. If it wasn't for me, you would have been through time and space. Come on, mate. All right.
Hey, gents, we're not backstage anymore.
Yeah. If anyone wants a window into what happens before we go live, this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
But like, it is the new normal, right? I know that between the four of us and the various businesses we work in and run, we've sort of adapted. And you look at some other businesses and you sort of look at them and go, they're waiting for things to go back to normal. And it's like, okay, but no, because this is the new normal. You need to adapt, and there's good parts. Obviously, Milne, what you were saying there, a lot of what Dave Broom was talking about last week in terms of adapting and sort of using this technology and these mediums to really push along and develop these ideas. But there are still some challenges in terms of what we're going to do. I know here at the Oak Barrel, we've pretty much all tastings moving forward will be virtual and in store and run them concurrently, not on two different nights. Bailey, you were one of the first I know to bring back your physical tastings last year as soon as you could in like very small quantities. What is your, are you optimistic about what's going to happen this year?
He had to bring in cavalry, remember?
I did, like we said before, I did carry Andy on my shoulders for a little bit there, but I've put him back down again. No, you're right though, Scotty. I did bring back, I was very quick to bring back in-person events last year, at the end of last year, before we sort of saw that Christmas sort of lockdown area again. But I mean, in November and December, it was all sort of back to normal back to normal. I'm going to keep using that phrase, but we were all sort of that back to normalness again.
The new normal.
The new normal, yeah. And that's why our Christmas party was 100 and something people, but it was outdoors. And so, it's like doing it. You were there, Scotty. You saw that. It's like they're seeing that sort of in action. And it's like, that's really important.
The only problem was with that I needed to jump the fence, and the fence at that park were quite high to get in. Normally I could just sneak in the back door of the Christmas party, but actually physically having to jump the fence to get in was a little bit difficult.
The park had a photo of you on the phone, by the way.
So and I'm getting a few text messages coming through. We are going to get to in a little bit the second half of the show. We'll get into our predictions and previews. We understand if you need to go to the MAFS party, cat fight is on tonight. So sorry, I can't see you. Understand? I mean, you're dead to me if you're watching that, but that's all right.
Yeah. Wow.
Someone who's not watching that because it won't be screened there is the big daddy of the stream, Mark Westmoreland from Wolfburn. G'day to you. And our friends from Griffith, from the Ashland Distillery, and now we all should know how to pronounce that, Michelle and/or Mark Burns. And listening back to the podcast as I was editing it across the weekend, I'm pretty sure I was the closest in terms of. I think I said Ashling. I left the hanging G, but I think I was.
All right, yank your chain. All right, but I mean, just by the way, Mark Westmoreland, you just consider yourself lucky. You don't even know what maths means. Like, consider yourself lucky. It's reality TV at its worst.
It is also in the UK.
Oh, God damn it.
I think it's where it came from, unfortunately.
No. Australia was the first.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Now this stream's really taken a left turn.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me that started it, guys.
Shut up.
Bloody hell.
All right. So, I mean, like, does anyone have anything of I know, Alex, apart from a few quite massive things that happened with your business this year. Anything big that's happened in 2021 in terms of whiskey in the way that we do things? For me, it's been a little bit business as she goes, taking the lessons from 2020 and adapting them a little bit. It's been pretty cohesive.
For us, it's been like, as you said, Scotty. I mean, the Oak Barrel's doing the whole sort of doing the and approach, is like call it. So you're doing virtual and in person, like at the same time. We're doing a little bit of that, but we're also doing like and/or. So it's like we're still maintaining our monthly virtual. Like, it was sort of our big monthly virtual each month. We're maintaining that, we plan to maintain that even outside of anything. So that's kind of, as we've been saying, the new normal. Oh, Harriet, I love you. Where are you? What do you want about?
Harriet, will you come on the show, please?
Yes, Harriet comes in with an excellent comment saying, "What do you want about?" Generally thought it was maths for a minute, and yes, we're going to get Milne to do long division in the second half.
Because we were actually educated in that form of
And I want to do a quick g'day from our friends across the ditch, literally, to Chris, who is on the YouTube comment section, tuning in from New Zealand. Just stumbled across your channel tonight after mentioning it on Mark Gillespie's Whiskey Cast. Now, that is a bit of it. We need to, I think, maybe get Mark Gillespie on here.
That's news to me. So
what the actual?
That's huge if he did. I didn't even realize that. We actually need to do some good content now, guys. Okay, from now, 7:50, we take it
Concentrate,
seriously.
you fucking idiots. Concentrate.
Come on.
But no, Chris, we love New Zealand, and we actually mentioned we'd love to see the what the Distilling Association over there has sort of given guidelines. It's been accepted in the internal organisation about what whiskey is and what the labelling and that sort of stuff. I think there is still a couple of weeks away from getting that thing. But Chris, maybe if you could report back to us a little bit later, that would be excellent to see where that is.
As a short flex, I actually have a Whiskey Cast Glencairn at home because when Miss Mark came into the whiskey show in London a couple of times, and the first time I came to see him, he turned up and the first thing he said is, "Here is a glass. Thank you for having me." And he's such a lovely guy. So
Mark's a legend.
Very pleased.
Yeah. Big shout out to Mark Gillespie. And Whiskey Cast is, how long's Whiskey Cast been going now? I'm going to say more than 10 years.
I was listening to it. It still rings in my ears. Like even before I was working at the Oak Barrel, and I can't do his voice, but you're going to have to imagine. And this is brought to you by Redbreast.
Yeah.
Oh.
Redbreast and Johnny Walker ads. Yeah.
Such an iconic sponsorship, in terms of whiskey. It was like really great content, really in depth, and just Redbreast at like the halfway mark of every Whiskey Cast podcast, just like Redbreast 12. It's like, and back at that time, I was like, fuck, I wish we got this in Australia, because obviously Whiskey Cast is an American cast. But
sorry, Scotty, can you just do that again in your new microphone?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, Matt. Oh.
Tonight is brought to you by 43% blended whiskey.
Okay.
Oh, I love you, kids. You're awesome.
Enough of that. Quick shout out to Johnny Edwards. Seems like everyone is getting invites to go on the roundtable tonight. Yeah, well, bit of a vacuum. We're stuck. We have to listen to Matt Bailey this week, so anything that we can get another voice on. But Matt Wooler asked a question. I've seen a huge flux in private tasting, especially for belated birthdays. People are keen to get social and whiskey again. And yes, but I think it's fueled by the same thing. I did so many, as I'm sure we all did, virtual tastings. People who were stuck in quarantine for birthdays, people like families that would get together and, would normally get together but couldn't, say we can just send some packs out and do that. So, people were saying, it's not as intimate as the public tastings and like the physical ones. I reckon it was the opposite. I saw more lounge rooms and bedrooms, was invited more to people's family birthday parties and functions than I ever have been through the virtual element. They need someone.
We don't want to know about your gigolo work, okay? That's a side project that's not for this podcast.
Well, I can tell you how well it went. I'm back running whiskey tastings. It wasn't very lucrative.
I thought we just talked about going professional, guys.
Well, speaking of professional, shall we get onto the topic of the Australian Whisky Awards? I mean, if I can just intro it, but I mean, it's really just, it's Scotty or Alex, you guys can take the reins here. But
no, Bailey, like we've been talking about like this sort of concept for many years just in our group. You do an intro, like when you first read about them, it's obviously coming up, not this Sunday, but the next Sunday, I think.
Yep.
2028. So it's very soon.
21st.
But when you first saw it, like what are they and how would you introduce them?
Well, I mean, I'd introduce it by saying it's quite important, and it's something that it almost feels like it was a missing jigsaw piece in the puzzle. I mean, there's been Australian Spirits Awards now through the Agricultural Society, through AISC. There's been a few, but there haven't been any whiskey only ones, and especially any Australian whiskey only ones, I should say. So I think I saw it and I thought it's a niche, but it's a cool niche, and it might serve a purpose. And I thought it's exciting to see this come to fruition in under 2 weeks, isn't it? It's like a week and a half away or something.
11 days.
11 days, yeah. So next Sunday week, which
that's not enough time to lose enough weight to get an address.
Well, you can fast from now until then.
Imagine I've got to buy the dress, so it's even harder for me.
There's some suggestion that Karina, Siobhan and I, some very good mates of mine and myself might go in the same dress.
Ooh.
Well, there you go. Like three versions of the same dress, not just one dress and three that stuck together. But that was discussed. But like Matt, I'm a little bit in the same boat. When I first saw it, there wasn't a huge amount of information about the awards apart from the fact there was a logo and a name. Subsequently, we've understood a little bit more about it. And personally, I've got I've been more confident in it filling the gap of what it is planning to fill, than I was when it first happened. But I mean, to Alex and Andy, like, how are you sitting with it?
I had a fairly blunt attitude towards it of if I heard any sort of negative back about it, my thoughts were, well, did you do it? No. So someone stood up, someone's done it. Let's fucking get behind it for the fact that it's Australian whiskey. It's championing a category that we all absolutely love. So why wouldn't we just get behind it and make it what we want it? And I think the organisers have had a great grasp on listening this year. Well, for the first year, they've definitely listened to a lot of the feedback. I just want to get behind it and have a great big fucking party with all the most amazing people in one room. And why wouldn't you get behind that?
Good point.
It's going to be a great party. And I haven't seen, well, on my personal view, I haven't seen everyone for gosh knows how long. It's exciting. And if something else comes of it, then like, great. But why wouldn't we get behind this?
True.
Because it is literally something that's only going to push the awards. And this one of the cool things about this is I think that consumers can get involved. A lot of it is industry based. And I think consumers having a say. Also, consumers being at the can buy tickets. And from a little whiskey girl a couple of years ago, this would have been it's my dream night now, but it would have been my dream night 6-8 years ago to be in a room with like all the amazing distillers that I look up to. So my thoughts are, I don't care who's doing it. I don't know what, I don't mind. I would have got behind this no matter who did it because it's only good for our industry.
I think it's the first time in almost exactly 12 months. It'll be 6 days to the year that certainly from my office point of view that we went into working from home and that sort of happened. And it's the first time in 12 months that we've been given an opportunity as an industry in Australia to actually all sit in a room together and chat. And this virtual element has been great, but as you know, there's a lot of stuff that we probably talk about that we can't talk about online. There's a lot of conversations and chat and learning about the entire industry. I think it's you in those side conversations and in a bar at the end of the day, and those sort of elements of talking with different people and just sort of riffing about something that you learn someone else's opinion, you learn a different sort of point of view from something that's happening in this industry that we're all collectively in. And it's superb to actually get that chance to be back in a room together and talking, because I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone from Victoria, from Queensland, from Tasmania, from a whiskey point of view in a private forum, which is not to say that we sort of talking about secrets and bad things. It's more just actually talking about things that maybe not necessarily allowed to be made public at this time and moment, but given that opportunity to talk and discuss what's going on in the industry and what we think is happening and what's coming up next that we can all work together and as a team sort of help create and evolve.
100%. So to give a bit of background for people who may not be as familiar, and we just wait, Alex has come back to us, and we might have a little bit more, you were just frozen for a bit there, we might have a little bit more insight than people who aren't involved. So this is the Australian Whisky Awards. It's the inaugural Australian Whisky Awards. It is being run, the public face of it is Nico Devlin, who you might know from the Australian Whisky Appreciation Society, which initially was a Facebook group that has now evolved into an independent bottler. They're separate companies. They're registered as separate companies, and from my understanding, there's different people behind this event than are involved in AWOS. This has been in the boil for a little bit, and this was actually meant to happen a little bit earlier. COVID and events they haven't really gone together. So this has been pulled together quite quickly in terms of locking the date. Okay, we've got a date. Let's roll through it from. So let's just make it happen. The thing is, and we were talking about the new normal before, we're 14 days away, one outbreak, and we're all doing this virtually. Come that Sunday. So it is. So it's a bit of a ballsy move, but I agree. We need to look at it. It's the way it's sort of worked in terms of the categories. There's 6 categories, I believe, and we're going to go through each one of them and have a bit of a chat in a second. But it was up for public nomination. So whether you were a punter, someone involved in the industry, or a distiller yourself, you could list a nomination of people you think were good at, were justified in these categories. That is now closed to the top nominations, and I believe there was probably a bit of bringing in, if something was missed that the organisers thought was needed to be in there. So we've got our nominations now. That is now as well public, and there's an industry panel, which, as far as I'm aware, and it's anywhere between about 30 to 50 people, I think, are being tapped on the shoulder as of about today to say, hey, give your input. That'll be a little bit weighted. And that panel's made up of essentially people like ourselves, bartenders, retailers, people involved in whiskey that aren't necessarily involved directly in Australian whiskey. So exactly what the formula and that sort of thing is. And I know that list of people who on that panel are going to be published afterwards, because I don't want to publish it now in case someone doesn't vote. After the vote's close, you'll be able to see. But that's my understanding of how it's going to work, which is very much, Bailey, what you were talking about. There is the Australian Spirits Awards that the Agricultural Society is doing. And this is different. This is not, you pay a fee as a distiller, send 3 bottles of your juice, and then a panel of 8 experts turn around and drink it. This is very different. This is a wider reaching sort of concept. But yeah, so we have these nominations. So we jump in. We're going to do it in reverse. To what? So we'll start off with our first category, which is the last on the voting sheet, which is Whisky Venue of the Year. So I want to go around the table. We'll have a quick discussion about this, and hopefully everyone who is on this panel has a list of the nominees. Maybe a who will win, and then a who should win. So this is something that we used to do in my previous life at the very mighty Drum Media, God rest its soul. Whenever the ARIA Awards came up, we would do a who should win, who would win in like the week or 2 weeks before the ARIA Awards. So I'm sort of stealing that idea. I apologise, Truex. You probably own that IP. And I hope you're doing well at Gidinski's funeral today as well, if you're listening. So I can kick this off. I think in terms of Whisky Venue of the Year, I think something like, and it's going to be quite close in terms of Elysian Whiskey Bar or Casa de Vinos would be my gut will win, and my should win is actually one of those two. I'm going to have to pick because we're going to keep records. But in terms of venues that adapted really, really well to COVID and running events and doing that exceptionally, I think both of those venues did that really well. So if I had to pick, I'd probably say Elysian Whiskey Bar as my would and my should. So what do you guys think?
I am Elysian and Elysian. I should say Boilermaker House. They have they have 1,000 whiskies, and the reason I said yes to working for Speakeasy, but from an experience on a personal one-on-one, that's it for me.
I think it's an interesting list of nominations, because I think there's quite an interpretation of whiskey venue being a venue being a retailer versus a venue being a bar. I think it's a very different experience, and I don't know, it's just tough. And I think you're right. Something like Casa de Vinos is definitely champions that from a retailer point of view. But I think Bad Frankie's is it's a superb venue that champions Australian spirits that I absolutely love. And I remember the first day I walked into that bar, I was poured a drink and it had a metal straw that was slightly bent. And the first thing I did was knock the straw and throw my drink all over the bar. And about 10 seconds before I did this, I introduced myself as Andy from Southtrade and then threw my drink all over their bar. They just poured me. So I've not made the best first impressions for that bar. But I think that they're superb champions of Australian-only spirits and whiskies and things. And so I think for that reason, I think they're a bar that to me is champions Australian. And so very, very deserving of that.
It's a good call, Andy. I was going to say Bad Frankie's, but I'm also going to have to, again, I'm just thinking in the context of the awards, it's Australian Whisky Awards, not just Bar of the Year Award, which I say not just. It's a very different award category. So I think for me, Whisky Venue of the Year probably has to be Gold Bar or Bad Frankie's. Gold Bar get, obviously all the Tassie whiskies and all the other mainland whiskies as well, almost immediately on the bar there, and find ways to mix them up. And Ian Reid, big shout out to Ian if you ever watch these, but Ian's an absolute master mixologist of that stuff. He manages to find all these amazing flavors that he can combine with them as well. I'd do a special shout out for Whisky and Helmet because they've always been pioneering, especially mainland malts, especially South Australian malts.
Am I being blind? Or are they not in this list?
No, they are in that list.
They are in this list. They're at the sorry.
My third
is this bit in the middle? You just scroll down.
Whisky and Almond definitely, and Haynes and Co is the other one.
Of course. Well, Haynes and Co are very good as a bar. I mean, they're very much rum, and they've got a lot of rum and gin. Yeah. I mean, they've got a bit of whiskey, a bit of Australian whiskey, but I think really as an Australian whiskey bar, I think for me to have to be Gold Bar, Bad Frankie's, and then Whisky and Almond possibly in that order or somewhere around that order. But big shout out to Elysian, of course. Great guys. Yao and Kelvin, love you guys.
Yao was just already saying that it should be Bad Frankie's. Like, that's just the beautiful people they are. Like, I love that.
I think that's, and it's the thing that anything that's new and is establishing itself, there's a lot of openness for interpretation. And I think, are we talking Whiskey Bar of the Year that's a whiskey bar in Australia, or are we talking Australian whiskey champion out?
The category is Whisky Venue.
Yeah. But is it championing Australian whiskey, or is it championing whiskey?
And this is the thing. It's going to be so fascinating to do this again in 12 months' time and go, well, we really got that wrong because the voters and the public saw it in a completely different light to what we did, which is part of this, which is why we divide up into this who will and who should. And so you're dead right because it is open. But we're going to have to bring this podcast up when we do it next year and was like, well, that was a fucking stupid thing to say in hindsight, wasn't it? So I'm going to ask us to lock in this. I'm going to go because I'm going to give a point for if you get the one that will win or the one that should win. If you get either one, it's going to win. So I think Elysian will win. And I'm going to go for the other one. I really can't. I think Casa de Vinos should win. So they're interchangeable, but they're the two I'm locking in. Okay, Alex. Oh, sorry.
I said I would go Whisky and Almond will, Bad Frankie should.
Yep, Alex.
Elysian. I'm saying that right. I always say things wrong. Elysian and Whisky and Almond.
So Elysian will win.
I chose Elysian twice, but I'll Whisky and Almond next for me.
Okay, yep. Bailey.
I'm going to go with Gold Bar and Bad Frankie's.
So Gold Bar will win?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the second one, which is actually a little bit interesting because 3 out of the 4 members of this panel have been nominated for some reason. If after listening to this podcast for a long time, you realize that none of us have any personality, but there are certainly better people than us on this list. But this is another one. So Whiskey Personality of the Year. Again, it's another open-ended sort of comment. And I think, maybe people have been a little bit more prominent on the virtual side, got nominated a little bit heavier than they would have if COVID hadn't hit and there was a lot more in-person things. So there's a wide-ranging list of people here. Does anyone want to kick us off here, or shall I start?
Start us off.
I think good friend of the stream, someone we've had on the stream, Dan Wooley, will be hard to beat in this category.
Yeah, so do I.
And I think as well he's got, and I'm not talking in terms of he's better than anyone else or anything like that, but in terms of the crossover, like the job at Lefroy he had was such a high profile job in Australia, to then be like the Highwaymen bottlings and that label that he's created. He's just been in in the prominence so much. And if I've done a few of these for different things, and I love a fucking preseason and Brownlow medal sort of preview show. If he's going to be, like, a lot of people will have like a first vote or a second vote, he's going to be a lot of people's third vote, I think. And that's going to come through. And I think he's going to win. Who do I think deserves Whiskey of the Panel of the Year? I actually think, unfortunately, and if we can just mute him for a second, what a certain member of this stream has done even before the pandemic hit with weekly live or nightly live streams at the Society, not just plugging Society bottlings, but also just education. I think Matt Bailey would be hard to beat for actually just the prolificness of what you've done this year.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I feel the same about you, Scotty. And I'm not just saying this for bullshit. Like, I had this conversation with Daniel Hutchinson Reid. Scotty, I think you do such an amazing job. And when we talked about like the venue of the year, championing, whether it's just Australian venue or Australian whiskey in the venue, it's the same thing with this. With the personality, are they in Australian whiskey, or are they just a face of? Or do you know what I mean?
But this is up to the voters to decide. The voters and that industry panel which is a lot of people. You know, it's not just people who are involved in a certain, you know, who are active on Facebook. It's not people that are involved around Australian whiskey. There's people on that list, if I understand it right, who might be, you know, companies who import a lot of Scotch whiskey or American whiskey, and so their Australian whiskey experiences are going to be, you know, the bits that have come to them or they've gone out and sourced themselves. So I think it's a really interesting question. But if you sorry, Alex, did you put in a vote then? So who do you think?
Who do I think should win?
Oh, you can have a think about it.
You, Scotty. I think you should win.
No, because that's irrelevant, because I've only done stuff specific to what I've been talking about. I haven't done anywhere near as much just general education stuff as someone's like Matt Bailey has. And even though I look at here, like even Durbidge has done it, what Kelvin has done.
I'll throw it out there right now.
You can't fight my answer. My answer is I think you should win. So shut up and take it.
Right.
And then Dan Wooley. They're my two answers.
Can I just throw something in here as well? At the risk, we're obviously based in Sydney, and this is maybe something that we haven't factored in. Someone like Nathan Detienne, who basically is a king in Perth, could well be a smoky, because we sometimes we love him. We love going to Whiskey Freedom when we can. We love having over here, but sometimes we don't understand how pivotal and how important he is in that market. I know there's a lot of people in WA voting on this as well, so that could be a really real one.
I'm liking Daniel. Is it Hopper or Hopper? I feel like Hopper.
No, I don't. It's Hopper. I asked him in the flesh the other week. I was like, mate, have I been getting that wrong for like a fucking year? But no, apparently I'm getting right.
I'm liking his comments, clearly suggesting that, you know, there's a dislove for my accent, clearly, because, you know, I'm not good enough because I'm not Australian, apparently. So,
way to bring it back about you.
As the only non-personality, I have to continuously bring it back to me to be able to try and one day be if I'm gonna be a personality.
Yeah,
you know,
good.
It's the one thing my mum said to me throughout my entire life. It's like, you're not a personality, you're not a person. You know, it's fine.
There's also a big part of me that wants a girl to win this, so I would love to see Kathleen up there.
Yeah,
well, that would be my vote for who I want to, you know, I think deserves to win. I think there are very few people that, you know, of that lineup that is doing so much for Australian whiskey, and I think my mindset might be slightly different to what the general consumer is looking at this for from looking at the votes. But if we look at purely Australian whiskey and, you know, who's doing something for Australian whiskey, it's got to be Kathleen. You know, what she does for Australian whiskey and what she's continuously doing and continuing to develop and evolve. You know, she's a champion of that category. So, yeah, I think she 100% is deserving of.
And to go further than that, it's not just whiskey. She's an Australian distillery.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good shout as well, because last year she did so much work behind the scenes. Some of it will come to fruition this year and it'll be very public facing, but a lot of the work she did, is either in development or, did its job and did it very well, but necessarily wasn't as public, which is why I 100% she's definitely in that should.
I think that's what's great about her is that she just gets on with it and does an amazing job. And it's nothing about being a personality and being a face in the front. She slogs and she works so bloody hard to achieve what she's achieved. And at a very little point, do you see her in the limelight celebrating that? And it's a testament to her that she's just cracks on and does an incredible job without needing to be a front person in that sense.
So
that's my would like to win. I think Tim Duckett is probably the other one that I think is a really pivotal person in Australian whiskey.
Strong contender.
As far as I know, he's the only independent bottler of Australian whiskey outside of SMWS. That's oh, come on.
No, there's a few now.
There's a few now.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to mention some in a little while.
I was just going to
On
say,
that list, any one of those people on that list is well deserving. I think.
100%.
Except Matt Bailey.
But the purpose of this competition, we need to pick a winner.
well, look, my vote's going towards who should win is Kathleen, only because she's an absolute trooper of Australian spirit, and like Scotty said, she's doing a lot behind the scenes to, and I say spirit of Australian spirit. I mean, whiskey is part of that category, so it's well deserving. I think otherwise, my other two would be. It should absolutely, in my opinion, go to someone like either a Luke McCarthy or an Andrew Durbidge. Neither of those people are associated with any particular brand. Both of them have been writing about Australian whiskey, both on a review level and on a critical level and on an in-depth level, and really promoting the category of Australian whiskey. That's what there are other names in there which are associated with brands who have their own whiskey brand or whatever. And that's great, but that's very much. It's almost like I won't say insular, but it's one aspect, it's one facet of what should be a broader discussion.
100%, and I think when we look back at this in 12 months' time and we do the year two's previews and look back on what we got wrong this year, I think I'd be very surprised if Kathleen's not a really big discussion of who will win. Because I think what she's got planned that's going to be launched the next couple of months is going to be big. So you got Kathleen as your who should win. Sorry, Matt, who was your lock-in who you will win?
I'm going to lock in Luke McCarthy.
Okay.
That's a bit of a wild card, but the work he's done in the last 12 months, especially with Oz Whiskey Review, I could easily also say Andrew Durbidge. I mean, it's in his capacity through Whiskey and Wisdom. Again, nothing to do with the society. There's not sort of any bias there. It's just that his capacity through Whiskey and Wisdom has been quite phenomenal.
Yeah, he was very close to who should win for me. It's just you've hogged so much of the limelight, taken it away from him this year that so it's basically your fault. All right, let's move on to the third category, whiskey distiller / producer of the year. Now, this is an interesting one. We were talking about it before we went live. Some of the criticism we've had of certain other awards and accolades who award Whiskey Distiller of the Year to someone who either doesn't work at that distillery anymore or doesn't actually do any distilling at that distillery. I like the way this question is phrased because it is a distiller, a producer in terms of an independent bottler. Producer could be a blender. It could be, arguably it could be even like a distillery manager who manages the team that's distilling and producing. It's open, and that's represented in the nominations. I think this is a really hard one. I think in the will win, I think again we're thinking about someone who has the profile, who's going to get the votes, and not necessarily the core of the votes, but be that second and third vote for a lot of people across the range that is that base that you need to get up there. So I actually think it'd be really tough. Tim Duckett or Dave Withers, I think probably is my pick for that. And this is really fucking hard.
Hard.
So I'm actually going to go. I think Dave Withers from Archie Rose is my will win. And not to do any disservice to what he's done there in terms of the should win, I want to go to Angela Andrews from Fleuriot. Not hugely prolific in terms of their output. Their output is very, very small. It's very small batch. And this is a really tough call between Angela and Heather from Sullivan's Cove. But we know, we're talking of the year, and I'm getting into semantics here. Of the year, Heather has been excellent for many years now, and she is, arguably the best distiller and blender in the country. I think what the Fleuriot guys, and it's just coming through now, we're just seeing the releases and we're just starting to see what they're laying down. I think even though we're already at a high level, what Angela and other side of Gareth have done, I think we're going to be talking about them for many years to come. So, Dave Withers for the will win for me, and Angela Andrews from Fleuriot for the should win.
Alex.
Oh, shit.
Look.
I can't do this, guys.
Well, you can.
You can't.
Because that's the rules.
No, you made the rules up on the spot. I didn't get a choice.
Okay.
I can't pick.
You're part of this group chat. I gave you at least 10 minutes to think about this.
Scotty, I'll make it really easy for you. Mine's the same as Scotty's. I'm going to go with Dave Withers, should win. The work he's done over the last 12 to 18 months on building that new site that I've now seen a few times and is a juggernaut of what's to come. Is absolutely mind-boggling, and Angela, absolutely.
So you're going Dave for will, Angela for should.
There you go.
Okay, well, that's no good. If we get it right, we need to. Well, at least all our other votes are different. So because we need to crown a winner.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to agree with you on something, surely.
Oh,
I think it's hard. Like I looked at this on a. And I shouldn't do it because it's of the year, so it's sort of not the same opinion of looking at it. But I looked at it of what's their impact on the world, not just Australia as well. And two that stand out to me is David Baker. As kind of the key thing is that David Baker Bakery Hill was the first Australian whiskey I saw outside of Australia, and so for that reason, I think actually. What he's done and continues to do means that he's still relevant, and he's still, he's one of the pivotal players in Australian whiskey that's exporting. And I think as much as we've got a great industry here in the country, the mark of success is when other countries are wanting to buy your liquid as well. And the fact that he started that to a degree in the UK, from my perspective, is really important. And the other is Jared, which. Obviously, is David Fatali that sort of has that role, but Starwood, from that perspective, is the other player that has put a huge amount of effort and work into not making themselves available and accessible in Australia, and still developing and building. With Fortis coming in this year as well, but being an interesting and relevant player that means that you're available to the masses from a style point of view. But then I think who's made a massive impact, and it's slightly, I think the way that you've looked at it is different from me, but who deserves it is Peter Bignor. What he's done for the Australian industry and supporting consumers, not distillers, but actually supporting the consumers from that perspective of buying barrels and bringing back things and helping with his recent bottlings. Actually, that's a massive play for Australian whiskey, and he's really sort of shown his true colours in helping people through that moment. So, yeah, I think Peter Bignor is definitely a massively deserving player for that one.
It's like 100%, Milne, and it's a really interesting thing. This is the toughest category to talk about because there's no wrong answer, and they're all superb supply. With the previous category, personality, we can have a bit of fun. We can take the piss and put each other down, but we are essentially in this context. And I asked you to do this. This was my idea to do this tonight. I'm asking you to judge people who are better than us. You know what I mean? That's a really weird. And so I understand, Alex and Milne, what you're feeling there in terms of how can I say one is better than the other? Because they're all better. So, but that is the that's a really interesting thing. I always found that when I was a journalist, and reviewing music was one thing because it was a different discipline. Then when you had to review books, it was like, hold on, I'm reviewing the same discipline that someone is obviously better than me at because they are a published author. And so, like, even though we're not distillers as such, it's a little bit talking like these people create the whiskey we love drinking, and then yet, right in this moment, we're being asked to, find faults in, not faults, but like find advantages in others. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like, I think everyone in that list has made superb whiskey this year, and they've made delicious product. Like, there is no one in that list that has made something that I'm like, wow, that's average. You don't deserve it. So that's why you have to look beyond the case of just actually who makes good juice, because they're all doing it. So it's who's gone above and beyond what, just making good juice. It's actually now who's done something more for the industry. And I think, those that bring it to the world, I think are massively deserving, and those that support consumer and industry is the other.
So you've got Peter Bignor in who should win. Who was your will win?
I don't know.
You've got all about 2.5 seconds to decide.
Heather Tillett, Sullivan's Cove.
Yeah, good call.
There you go.
Good call. Bailey?
I've already given you mine. Mine was the same as yours.
Oh, so no, Alex, wait for Alex. I'm getting around the service, so you skipped it.
All right.
Alex, I'm going to push you for this.
Cool. I think, who do I think will win? I think Dan Wooley might get up on this one.
Yep.
Who do I think should win? Probably going to go Peter Bignor, or I love Iniquity. Ian Schmidt, another pillar of distilling.
Which is a nice subtle plug to say that we've got Schmitty on the stream next week for those tuned in right now.
Yeah, we do too.
So for those who enjoy Roundtable, enjoy watching each week, please tune in same time next week, 7:30. Of course, next Wednesday, where we'll have Ian Schmidt from Iniquity Tin Shed Distilling joining us live on Roundtable.
He also couldn't come tonight because he was sailing.
Yeah,
Nice.
which is, yeah. We're basically going to talk about old steam ships next week. So tune in for Whisky Roundtable does steam ships. All right, let's move on to
second last one.
We're getting into so there's 3 to go.
Let's make
whiskey,
it happy, and I know that I was the slow one then. So
whiskey distillery of the year. Now again, like reiterate the fact these are open-ended questions, and we won't know until the awards is how other people have sort of taken these questions. So whiskey, like, is it a distillery that's created the best whiskey or done the most exciting things or engaged with audiences, exported? Everyone's as personal opinions. I think Mark Westmoreland came up with a comment there. Everyone's personal experience of what that means is different. For me, I actually haven't thought about this one. I think in terms of will win, I think it's hard to go past someone like an Overeem. I think they're taking it back into the family, making it accessible again, getting the name out there when it was struggling a little bit by being buried under the weight of one company having to market a few different brands. I think Overeem are a big shout to win this. Who do I think should win it? Corowa.
Stop. That's mine.
No, but like, I think what they have done is so special, and the way they've adapted, the way that they have produced, whiskeys to their market, how they've championed themselves and their region, what they're doing. I think Corowa have had an exceptional year given the circumstances. So yeah, my will win is what did I just say? Overeem, and then should win is Corowa. Alex?
I think who will win is maybe Archie Rose on this. And who I'd like to win is Corowa.
Andy?
I said who I would like, not as a...
Yeah, so Alex hates any distillery she hasn't mentioned apart from Archie Rose and Corowa. She fucking hates you.
Hates them, yeah.
No, I hate giving opinions. Andy, take it away.
I think, and this is probably an incorrect reason to do it, but I think who should win Apologies, there's someone hoovering my office currently, if you can hear that. But the should win, the only distiller that I saw that offered a reach out to, and I've gone completely blank about the recent distillery fire, Adams Distillery, was Andrew from Gospel, who straight up said, if you need help with production, storage, anything else, he said, we're here and we'll help you out. And so I think from that sheer perspective of, an industry supporting an industry, 100%, I think that's a really, really incredible thing for someone to sort of just turn around and say, you're in a really tough time. It's like my distillery is open and available to you to help and support. So I think for that reason, which is probably not a classic reason that people will nominate on this, but I think for that, there's definitely kudos to him and an amazing support of what this industry is all about.
100%, but that's exactly what this is out. This is like different opinions. So gospel for the should or gospel for the will?
Should.
Yep.
Would. There's so many contenders in there.
It's 20.
I hate looking at that list, and I think it's down to a bit more of a popularity contest at this point, and it's a tougher call to make. I think Starwood are probably a big contender in there in terms of they've managed to exercise an entire renovation of the distillery when Victoria's gone through one of the hardest lockdowns of this entire country. How they managed to do that is beyond me, and to do that successfully. They've released a new whiskey in that same time as well. It's the slog that they've done is incredible. And the other people I'd say is backwards for that same thing. Who would have thought that during a lockdown you'd build a distillery visitor experience? Everything about it tells you, but no one's allowed to come and visit. It's like, let's spend our time creating something for people to visit us. It's dedication to the cause, which I think is incredible. So I'm torn between probably those two.
But I don't care whether you're torn. I need an answer.
Just pick one.
Flip a coin. Starwood. Okay. Bailey.
I'll be quick. This is the who will win will be, I'm going to say Sullivan's Cove. Who should win is the Gospel.
Okay, two Gospel. Yeah. I think Sullivan's Cove is a really interesting one. I just think they have so little stock that not enough people have got it into their mouths this year to remember that Sullivan's Cove exists, if you know what I mean. But I'm taking this from a pure analytical point of view.
Fair enough. Where are we up to?
We're up to the second last one, and probably one of the biggest ones is Whisky of the Year. Now, again, so this, I want to just preface this. Bailey, again, what you were saying at the very start of the night, there's enough awards out there where distilleries submit booze, they pay an entry fee, they donate bottles, and say, judge our whiskey. And someone wins gold, other wins silver, other wins bronze, someone wins best in show. I don't think that's what this award is about. People who are judging this award don't necessarily need to taste this whiskey, because it's part of these awards, for me at least, the way I'm approaching it, is that open-endedness of it. So Whisky of the Year, this was probably the toughest one for me to sort of think about. I think who will win? That's really tough. I don't really know, to be quite honest. If I had to get gun to my head, which I know it is, having not tried Highwayman Batch 7 or 9, I can't tell you which one's better or worse. I think maybe Starwood Fortis might get up. New whiskey, high profile. It came with a bit of a splash. Starwood, as Milne was saying, have had a big year in terms of PR. So a lot of people will be familiar with it. Do I think what do I think is should win? I actually think Country to Coast 1. So the blended whiskey collaboration between Flu Rio and Blackgate, first and foremost, was an excellent whiskey. Secondly, and arguably more importantly for how I perceive this category, is it introduced people who are only really interested in single cask and single malts. You know, they're not, people who are drinking Flurio and Blackgate aren't necessarily dipping their toes into twofold and that sort of stuff. We're like, got across the line that a blend is okay, and blends are actually really delicious. So I think for a whiskey that really changed, like a bolted on whiskey drinker's perception of what it should be, I think that was a really important whiskey. To take a phrase out of James Broombook, I think it was a compelling whiskey in more ways than one. So that's my should win.
Alex. And Alex.
I know if you're listening back on the podcast, you can't hear thinking, but that's what's going on right now.
I can't hear words either. Is she muted or something? Okay, we'll come back around to Alex.
Alex, we'll come back to you. We can't hear you. You've muted yourself somehow.
Shit, hi, I'm back.
Welcome.
That's swearing then. That's really cute. That's awesome. I think Archie Rose Single Malt will take this, will win. Who I would like to win is probably either a Hobart or a Backwoods.
Hobart, yes.
Can't sit on the fence.
Yeah, that's nice, but answer, please.
Okay, I'm going to go Hobart.
So it's the Hobart signature, isn't it?
Really
good whiskey.
And I'm going to be there like over Easter long weekend. I cannot wait.
Milne?
Again, it's a tough one because it's...
No, it's not a tough one.
No.
Pick two.
They've all been tough ones.
They've all been tough ones. I think this gets harder because I think, well, I haven't tried everything on this list. So I can't impartially say one is better than the other.
But that's the point of these awards.
Yeah. As I've said, I was a massive fan of Star Wars Borders. I think it's something that is accessible and available. And so I think for that reason, I think it should win. I'm thinking Archie Rose Rye or Gospel Rye. And I would probably, push come to shove, go to Archie Rose Rye.
That's a really good point. And again, I'm talking about analytics here rather than emotions. People who love that rye style, they've only got two options to really choose from. In terms of
Backwoods rye.
But in terms of like stuff that was like available, rye, Archie Rose Rye wasn't available widely, but you know, they were the two most prominent ones. Take Backwoods as well. Whereas the single malt lovers have got a lot to choose from, so their vote is diffused across. So therefore, and this is the shit I fucking love, how many like rye voters are there as opposed to single malt voters? Because otherwise this could, and this is all what's going to skew these awards. I love this sort of shit. I do apologize for everyone making you sit through this episode of this podcast, but I'm loving this.
No, this is I used to do whiskey shows. I used to do whiskey shows in the UK, and with one of our sister companies was Diplomatico Rum, and we used to turn up and have a stand of Diplomatico Rum at every whiskey show, and we were the only non-whiskey brand at these whiskey shows, and we sold a shit ton more Diplomatico Rum than any other whiskey.
I call that the coolest one effect. It's the coolest one effect.
Whiskey Fair for the first 6 years until we said, actually, guys, you can't have it. The biggest selling whiskey at Whiskey Fair across all those years was Diplomatico Reserva Exclusiva.
King's Ginger is the other one. You know, it's those slightly different, slightly out of the realm, and that's the one that's most popular because the demographic is, the category is smaller.
Bailey?
Well, look, whiskey.
You're stumbling a little bit on this one, babe.
Whiskey of the year. It will probably be Archie Rose Single Malt because that was obviously a milestone whiskey.
Yeah.
However, I would. It's also. I'm going to go with Country to Coast 1.
Ooh, I haven't had that yet.
I've got a bottle somewhere.
Important whiskey.
Yeah, it changed the way. And again, the way that Matt and I think we're talking about it, we might be the only two idiots to think about it in that way or this category in that way, which is what I love about this whole conversation.
Also, the consumer vote in this as well. A lot of consumers wouldn't have had ability to get their hands on that. And there's a couple of whiskies in there that were super limited releases. That again, that's where like the Starwoods and the Archie Rose and the ones that did have, do that again. Ones that have a lot more distribution levels. I think we'll get up on this one.
Yeah, 100%.
That leaves it.
So there's one category left. It's actually an interesting segue because we're up to Dram of the Decade, and there's a few whiskies here. Every whiskey on this list is exceptional because when you talk about Dram of the Decade, you go back to 10 or 2011, wherever the cutoff is. Pretty much that is every Australian whiskey of note. Like not a lot was released prior to 2010 that didn't continue through, if you know what I mean. But I find this nomination list really probably the most intriguing of all the nomination lists.
Oh, I love this category. I thought this was great.
The list of stuff that I've been lucky enough again to try most of this stuff. But there's and we say Milne, you were talking about independent Australian bottlings. Dark Valley Swallows Winter, which probably was an excellent whiskey, but there was 36 of it in existence. So from a start, there's obviously every 36 of the people who drank that and the people who went to whatever bar that it was at to drink it loved it. But I'm sorry, 36 bottles does not make Dram of the Decade. But I find that quite fascinating that quite got up. So I know that Matt, you and I have had a few conversations about this. For me, there's only one answer to Dram of the Decade. It's Sullivan's Cove French Oak HH 525. That changed irreversibly what Australian whiskey is, how it was viewed, and what the local industry. I guarantee if Sullivan's Cove don't win that award, there are not half the distilleries in Australia right now do not exist. That just the groundswell and everything it brought through. So
my answer's going to be the same as yours on this. It's HH 525, and the other one is twofold.
Yeah, and so for me, HH 525 is both will win and should win, but because of the rules, a very close second is Starward Twofold for again what it did in that post 525 world to say, hold on, how do we make a whiskey to compete with your Jameson, with your Jack Daniels, with your Jim Beam, with your all those house pours.
But by the way, Twofold was by far one of the most poorly launched products I've ever seen in my life. But regardless of that,
what are you talking about? You're just jealous you didn't get the trip down to Melbourne. I got the trip to Melbourne. It was fucking genius.
Excuse me, I've heard enough about that trip to Melbourne. It was a total train wreck. But I'll tell you right now, the fact that that product exists and that people can walk into a bottle shop and buy a $65 Australian whiskey is absurd. And it changes the whole game again. It absolutely changes the whole game again. It did, just as HH 525 did.
And not just for the fact you can buy it, but the quality that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's $66 on those shelves, which means with the membership program, that's a sub $60 bottle of Australian whiskey. Yep, admittedly blended, but using Australian red wine casks, and they're not cheap. As you say, a game changer. So I am 525.
It's going to be different. I think Garrison's going to be the same on this one for you and me.
Yeah. So we'll line up on those answers.
I think we're collectively I 100% agree. I think 525, your Australian whiskey wouldn't be in the place that it is globally recognised without that, and it is definitely deserving of that award. What's brought it forward? Twofold, 100%. Without a doubt, they are the two massive players and deserving winners of that award.
So you're going the same 525 will and Twofold should? And we're not saying Twofold should over 525. We're just saying because we have to pick another one.
I think Twofold will and 525 should. But I think because Twofold is more current, it will probably sway the votes a little bit further.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So I can see that because this is probably going to be the last award on the night. If the scores are tied, because we might wait a will rather than should. You're looking for the tiebreaker point there. I can see it. I like where you're going with this.
Well, I'm going to go off track, and I'm going to go Belgrove Rye. will win.
Okay.
And I was so fucking lucky. I got a bottle, which is now finished, of the Iniquity Batch 3. I got the second last bottle that Ian had, and I used it for a masterclass we did with Gourmet Traveller Wine, and that was just insane. So I think that one.
And you call that, and I'm not doubting you, but you call that Dram of the Decade.
It was. I loved it.
All right. So you're.
That's
okay.
a personal. This is personal. My personal.
It is absolutely.
I'm not going from an industry perspective that you guys are taking right now. I'm going, I was so fucking in love with this.
You're also from the industry, so your opinion is an industry perspective.
No, I know, but I'm taking it as a personal.
Absolutely wrecked.
But and that, again, that's how do we know that people who are in the industry won't think more like Alex than like thinking like us right now? Great comment coming through from Matt Wooler. Early cast strength offerings back in the first part of the decade, they were unbelievable. Broadcast, and remember, like we're talking decade. So when Lark released the cast strength
was in 2011,
the cast strength in 2011, that's in this window. It's not only the Lark Classic is nominated, so Lark Sherry aged and Sherry finished, and this is actually an interesting thing because the original Lark Sherry was unbelievable. I haven't tasted last year's release, but I remember that being. But for me, it didn't do as much as what Lark Cast Strength did for the decade. So anyway, so these are all things that we love talking. A quick comment here coming from Steve Oates. What's the scope here for a Whisky Roundtable to host the AWA Red Carpet event? Well, we're all going to be there. We've all got phones, so chances are we will be doing some sort of stupid event.
Probably Whisky Roundtable Instagram. Check us for a live stream on there.
Yeah, we reckon we'll get around it. We might be involved in different ways on the night.
How abuse at people from the night. I'm keen for that. We'll just stand there and shout. It's just like, do you think your whiskey's good? No, bye, cheers.
Well,
can we get some I don't know what everyone uses Twitter anymore. Can we get some live tweeting?
Yeah,
just like some really vicious. Particularly if I don't know if they've announced it, but if anyone MCs the night, if we just get some vicious attacks on the MC and the presenters, that would be excellent. And that not just from the panel, I'd love to see that from the chat as well. Absolutely vicious.
Let's. I want to say this. Yeah.
I heard the MC was shit, so this is good banter there.
Look, I think I take a utopian approach with this. I just want everyone to win, and I want everyone to be there, and everyone to have a great night, because that's what this is fucking about. It's not about who wins or anything like that. It's about us all coming together, pushing the Australian whisky community, and actually being an industry that supports each other.
100%. And I think one of the most healthy things, and going back to what we started talking about, is like whatever you think about this concept, the fact that it's happening, the fact we're having this discussion, and the themes and the conversation that's come up because of these awards, I think that's really healthy. I think that's great. And I'm just madly scrolling through based on what you just said there, Alex, to a comment I put up very early in the night. It was from one John Jarvis. Here it is. What is the Whisky Awards? I thought I was coming to Sydney to drink, and bloody oath, John, that's exactly what you were doing.
You absolutely are, because holy shit, there's 6 drams on the night, the 5 courses. The food looks fucking amazing as well. I'm really excited about that.
Alex, you're not allowed to eat any of that food. You'll be in a dress looking fine. I'm so sorry.
Eating is cheating.
Yeah, eating is cheating.
It's been a long time since I've been on a red carpet. Let's do this, boys. I want you in tuxes, please.
I'm game.
I'm wearing this. I'm wearing this or a dress.
Also, we need to get our next photo of us together, because that one's quite old now.
It's getting there.
Oh, John Jarvis actually has a sample set on my desk ready for him. So I made a promise last Christmas, or at Christmas, that I would send him a dram of my favorite whiskey. And I wrote the letter to him and then never sent it to him. So, John, you are getting something special next week.
Sounds sexy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And this is what's going to be in my hip flask, my handbag hip flask. So
don't tell security. Security are going to throw you away before you even get in now.
Yeah.
Find it.
Your marks.
So what we've done, we've already. This is essentially after party talk right now, because I'm definitely cutting this off from the podcast. But I remember one of the greatest ARIA awards ever was the one that was at the Opera House steps, and it was an absolute clusterfuck. Like it was just an absolute mess. And the hip flask about, and it was the first time I was ever introduced to the boozeberry. So we're going back about 8-9 years now to that particular awards. Boozeberry, which was a hip flask that looked like a blackberry, and you switched off the top, and it had Glenmorangie Quinta Rubin in it those days. Excellent. All righty. Look, guys, we're going to edit this into a podcast. If you missed some of the ones, I really take a listen, particularly to the second half of last week's one with Dave Grimm talking about whiskey as culture and not being able to remove that from culture. And I think that summed up, listening back to it, and I don't know if you guys on the panel have, but listening back to it to edit it, it was just like, fucking hell, like that is exactly what I've been trying to say for the last 5 years, and he just said it in 30 seconds. Unbelievable thing. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify. You can go to our site and put it into whatever player you use. Thank you to my fellow panelists. Thank you to the chats. We'll have Ian Schmidt back next week. Not back, but Ian Schmitty from the Tin Shed Distillery to talk about all things how shit Port Adelaide are and maybe a little bit about his whiskey. We probably need to do, whether we have a guest the week after, we probably need to do a bit of a scorekeeping and wrap up of all our nominations from this. So we'll post that. And actually we might post these votes onto the Facebook there. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. And always, thank you for hosting, Scotty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sounding sexy with your new microphone.
Oh, yeah. This podcast was brought to you by Carayo, Geelong's favorite whiskey.
No.
Carayo.
See you, folks.
Bye.
Bye, love.